My name is Amanda, I'm 27 years old, and I've always been the type of person who keeps her cool no matter the storm. Maybe it's because life never really gave me the luxury of falling apart. I've had to stand on my own 2 feet since I was 19, hustling through 2 jobs while finishing college, building my life piece by piece. I thought I had finally reached some stability, a steady job, a cozy apartment in Dallas, and the peace of mind that I worked so hard to earn. But peace is always fragile. That evening, I came home late from work. My hands were full with groceries, and my feet ached from standing all day. I was thinking about how nice it would be to just drop everything, kick off my shoes, and sink into my couch with a glass of wine. But when I opened the door, the sight in front of me made my stomach turn cold. There she was, my younger sister, Danielle. Danielle was 24, reckless, spoiled, and always chasing trouble like a moth to a flame. She stood in my living room like she owned it, leaning smugly against the arm of my couch. Around her were 4 of her so-called friends, the kind of people who thrived on chaos and thought cruelty was a form of entertainment. "Pack your things, this apartment is mine now," Danielle announced, her voice dripping with arrogance. Her friends laughed like hyenas, egging her on, enjoying the drama as if it were some cheap show. I didn't flinch. I didn't raise my voice. Instead, I calmly set my groceries on the counter, pulled my keys from my pocket, and pressed the small button on my key fob. The security alarm chirped once, a sound that signaled help was already on the way. "Security, please remove these uninvited guests," I said evenly. Within moments, 2 uniformed men walked in. Danielle's smirk faltered. Her friends went silent, shifting nervously as reality sank in. The power dynamic flipped instantly, and for the first time in years, Danielle realized I wasn't the same older sister she could push around. Her smile vanished. Danielle's face twisted in disbelief, as though she couldn't process that her little performance had just been shut down so quickly. Her friends, who had been cackling seconds before, suddenly looked like kids caught sneaking into a movie theater. The security officers stood tall at the doorway, hands resting casually near their belts, their presence enough to send a wave of silence through the room. "Miss, this is a private residence," one of the guards said firmly. "You and your guests need to leave immediately." Danielle snapped her head toward me, her eyes burning with rage. "Are you serious, Amanda? You're really calling security on your own sister?" I crossed my arms and met her glare without blinking. "You walked into my apartment without permission. You brought strangers here. That makes you trespassers." One of her friends, a tall guy with tattoos running down his arms, tried to puff up his chest. "This is ridiculous, man. We were just hanging out." The guard gave him a cold look. "Hanging out ends now. Out. All of you." Danielle's pride wouldn't let her back down so easily. She stomped her foot like a child, her voice rising. "You think you're better than me, don't you? Just because you've got this place, this job, this life you act so smug about." Her voice cracked, but she quickly masked it with venom. "You don't deserve any of it. I'm family. This should be mine too." Her words cut deeper than I wanted to admit. Family. That word had always been complicated between us. Growing up, Danielle had a knack for blaming me for everything, her bad grades, her arguments with our mom, even the trouble she'd get into with boys. And yet, despite all that, I'd always tried to protect her. But this wasn't something I could protect her from. Not anymore. The guards started ushering them toward the door, and Danielle's voice rose in protest. "This isn't over, Amanda. You'll regret this." I stayed silent, watching her storm out with her entourage. Inside, though, my resolve hardened. She had just declared war. And she had no idea I was prepared to fight back. That night, after the apartment was finally quiet again, I sat alone on the couch with the glass of wine I had been craving earlier. The silence felt heavy, pressing on me like a weight I couldn't shake off. Danielle's words echoed in my head, "This should be mine too." It wasn't just about the apartment. It never was. This was about years of resentment, years of her feeling like life had shortchanged her while I somehow had it easy. But the truth was, nothing about my life had come easy. I let myself drift back to our childhood in Houston. Danielle and I were only 3 years apart, but it felt like we lived in two different worlds. Our mom worked long shifts at a diner, and our dad, well, he wasn't really around. By the time I was 14, I was cooking dinners, helping Danielle with her homework, and making sure she didn't get into too much trouble. I played the role of big sister and second mother, even when I didn't want to. But Danielle, she always pushed back. Rules were suffocating to her. While I studied late into the night, she snuck out with friends. While I saved every dollar from babysitting, she blew her allowance on things she didn't need. When I left for college on a scholarship, she cried, not because she would miss me, but because she thought I was abandoning her. I thought maybe she'd grow out of it. Instead, she doubled down on her recklessness. She dropped out of community college, drifted from job to job, and started surrounding herself with people who encouraged her worst impulses. And now, standing in my apartment like a conqueror, she had made her intentions clear. Danielle didn't just want what I had. She wanted to destroy me for having it. I took another sip of wine and leaned back, my jaw tightening. For the first time in years, I realized I couldn't afford to keep forgiving her. She had crossed a line. And this time, I was going to make sure she never got the chance to do it again. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. My body felt restless, like my nerves knew a storm was coming before my mind fully did. I brewed a strong pot of coffee and sat by the kitchen table, notebook in front of me. If Danielle wanted war, I wasn't going to fight blindly. I needed a plan. The problem with Danielle was that she never played fair. She didn't attack head-on, she used manipulation, lies, and chaos to get her way. I knew her well enough to expect that she wasn't going to let last night go. She'd come back, not with brute force, but with something sneakier. And I was right. Around noon, my phone buzzed. It was my landlord. My stomach sank as I picked up. "Amanda," he said carefully, "I just got a call from your sister. She claims you've been subletting your apartment without permission. And she says she has proof." My jaw tightened. Danielle was already at it, trying to get me evicted. "That's a lie," I said sharply. "I've never sublet. She broke into my place last night with her friends. Security can back me up on that." The landlord sighed. I figured. But she sounded convincing. She even mentioned having photos. "Don't worry, I'll look into it. Just, be careful." She seems determined. I hung up, my pulse racing. Danielle was escalating faster than I thought. If she was already fabricating evidence, she wouldn't stop there. But what she didn't realize was that I wasn't the same sister she used to manipulate. I had my own resources now. I knew people, neighbors, co-workers, even security, who had seen enough of her antics. And unlike her, I kept receipts. If Danielle wanted to drag me into a game of lies, I was going to turn every single one of her tricks against her. She thought she was the only one who knew how to fight dirty. She was about to learn I could fight smarter. By the end of that week, Danielle made her next move. I should have known she wouldn't waste any time. When I got home from work on Thursday, there was an envelope taped to my apartment door. No name, no return address. Inside were printed photos of strangers sitting in my living room, people I had never seen before in my life. The message scrawled in Danielle's handwriting across the bottom of the page read, "Proof that you've been renting this place out. Wonder what your landlord will think now." I almost laughed at how sloppy it was. The lighting in the pictures was off, the furniture wasn't even mine in a couple shots, and one of the men in the photo was wearing a hoodie with a California sports team logo. I lived in Texas. Anyone with half a brain could tell these were staged. Still, the fact that Danielle had gone this far lit a fire inside me. She wasn't just trying to take my apartment. She was trying to ruin me. I didn't waste time. That night, I invited my neighbor, Mrs. Hernandez, over for tea. She was retired, lived across the hall, and had a habit of noticing everything that happened in our building. If anyone could vouch for me, it was her. When I explained the situation, she didn't even look surprised. She just shook her head. Mija, I've seen your sister sneaking in here when you're gone. I told myself it wasn't my business, but now I see it is. If she's lying about you, I'll testify for you. That was the first ally I secured. The second came the next morning when I spoke with the building's head of security. He pulled up footage from the cameras, clear as day, Danielle and her crew walking in and out the night she tried to stage her takeover. I smiled for the first time in days. If Danielle wanted war, then I was going to build an army of truth around me. And when the time was right, I'd strike back so hard she'd regret ever underestimating me. Danielle didn't waste time escalating. If she couldn't take me down with the landlord, she'd go after the one thing she knew was still soft inside me, our mother. It started with a phone call on Sunday morning. Mom rarely called me that early, so when I saw her name pop up, I answered immediately. Amanda, she said, her voice tense, I've been hearing some disturbing things from your sister. My stomach tightened. What did she tell you now? She says you're mixed up in some illegal business. That you're using your apartment as a front for, Mom's voice cracked, as though she didn't even want to say it. Drug dealing. I nearly dropped the phone. Are you kidding me? Mom, that's insane. She's lying. Mom hesitated, and I could hear the conflict in her breathing. I want to believe you, honey, I really do. But Danielle sounded so convincing. She said she had pictures. I closed my eyes, forcing myself not to yell. Of course she did. Pictures she staged. Mom, she's trying to ruin me. Please, you know me. Do you really think I'd throw away everything I've built for something like that? There was a long silence before Mom finally said, I don't know what to think. I just want my daughters to stop fighting. The call ended, but I sat there shaking. Danielle had crossed into dangerous territory. It wasn't just about my apartment anymore. She was dragging my reputation, my career, and my family into her lies. That was the moment I knew I couldn't just defend myself anymore. Defense wasn't enough. I had to go on the offense. Danielle wanted to play dirty? Fine. I could play smarter, sharper, and with the truth on my side. I pulled out my notebook again, flipped to a blank page, and wrote 3 words at the top. Destroy her lies. And beneath that, make her confess. I knew Danielle wasn't going to stop until she felt like she had broken me. But what she didn't realize was that the harder she pushed, the more fuel she was giving me to strike back. The first step of my plan was simple: gather undeniable evidence. I already had the building security footage, and Mrs. Hernandez ready to testify. But that wasn't enough. Danielle was manipulative. She could twist words, charm people, and make them doubt what they knew. I needed something she couldn't talk her way out of. So I started digging. I knew Danielle well enough to know she wasn't living clean. She had no steady job, yet she always had cash for nights out, expensive clothes, and that shiny new phone she flaunted. Where was the money coming from? I suspected she wasn't just hanging around with trouble, she was knee-deep in it. Through a coworker of mine, Jason, who had some connections in local law enforcement, I asked a few quiet questions. Nothing official, just whispers. And what I heard didn't surprise me one bit. Danielle's name had popped up more than once in police reports. Petty theft, disorderly conduct, even suspicion of credit card fraud. No charges had ever stuck, but her name was floating in all the wrong places. That was my opening. Meanwhile, I played the part of the calm, collected sister. I didn't confront her. I didn't let her know I was on to her. Instead, I let her believe she was still in control. And predictably, Danielle couldn't resist taking another swing at me. 2 nights later, I came home to find the word thief spray painted across my front door in dripping red paint. My neighbors were horrified. Some even looked at me differently, unsure what to believe. Danielle was trying to isolate me, to make me look guilty before I could defend myself. But she had made a mistake. Because that building had cameras everywhere. And now, I had her on video committing a crime with her own 2 hands. The first real piece of evidence that would crack her whole game wide open. The red paint on my door was still wet when I called security. They came up immediately, reviewed the footage, and within minutes, there it was, clear as day on the screen. Danielle, hood up, spray can in hand, defacing my door like a petty criminal. She even laughed after finishing, posing for her friends as if it were some kind of victory. I asked for a copy of the footage, and the guard handed it over without hesitation. "You'll want to keep this safe," he said. "Oh, I plan to." That night, as I cleaned the paint off my door, my phone buzzed with a text from Danielle. "Like the new look? Maybe next time I'll do the whole hallway." For a moment, anger burned hot inside me. But then, unexpectedly, I smiled. Danielle had just written her own downfall. She didn't know it yet, but every reckless move she made was ammunition I could, and would, use against her. The next day, I took the footage to my landlord. His jaw tightened as he watched. "I was starting to think maybe you two were just having a sibling spat," he admitted, "but this? This is vandalism. It won't be tolerated." "Exactly," I said. "And she's been trespassing multiple times. I need to know the building is going to take action." He nodded firmly. "Leave it with me. I'll be contacting the police and issuing a no trespass order against her. She won't be allowed in this building again." For the first time, the scales were tipping in my favor. Danielle thought she was untouchable, but now she was officially on record. The walls she had been trying to tear down around me were starting to close in on her instead. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Because I didn't just want her gone, I wanted her lies exposed, every single one of them. And soon, I'd make sure everyone, including our mother, saw Danielle for exactly who she was. It didn't take long for Danielle to find out about the no trespass order. By Wednesday evening, my phone lit up with her name. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her voice came through the line, sharp and furious. "How dare you," she screamed. "You think you can get me banned from your building? You think you can just erase me from your life like I'm nothing?" I kept my tone steady, calm, almost bored. "You did that to yourself, Danielle. Cameras don't lie." Her breathing was ragged, like she was pacing. "You've always thought you were better than me, Amanda. Always the responsible one, the one who gets everything handed to her. Well, let me tell you something, you're not safe. Not from me." And then she hung up. For a few minutes, I just sat there in silence, staring at the phone in my hand. There was something in her voice, something darker than the usual spite. A desperation that told me she was running out of moves. And desperate people? They were the most dangerous. That night, I decided it was time to take my revenge plan to the next level. The first step was bringing Mom into the truth. I drove to her house the next morning, security footage and printed text messages in hand. Mom greeted me with wary eyes, clearly still influenced by Danielle's lies. But when I played the video of Danielle vandalizing my door, her face went pale. When I showed her the text messages, her lips trembled. "Oh my God," Mom whispered, sinking into the couch. She really did this?" "Yes," I said firmly. "And that's just the beginning. She's been lying to you, Mom. She's been trying to destroy me. But I'm done letting her win." For the first time, I saw the shift in Mom's eyes. Doubt was gone, replaced with sorrow and something else, recognition. Danielle's mask was slipping. And soon, I'd rip it off completely. By the weekend, I thought maybe things would cool down. Danielle had been hit hard, the no trespass order, Mom finally seeing the truth, and her texts exposed. But instead of retreating, she doubled down. Saturday night, just as I was getting ready for bed, I heard a loud bang outside my window. My heart leapt into my throat. I rushed to the balcony and saw the unmistakable sight of a brick lying on the ground below, wrapped in paper. Hands shaking, I picked it up and unwrapped the note. This isn't over. If I can't ruin you, I'll ruin what you love. My blood went cold. Danielle wasn't just threatening me anymore, she was threatening my life, my safety, maybe even my career. It was the most dangerous move she'd made yet, and I knew if I let it slide, she'd only escalate. I called the police that night. The officers took my statement, bagged the brick, and assured me they'd add it to the growing list of incidents tied to Danielle. I could see it in their eyes. They were tired of her name coming up, tired of her chaos spilling over into other people's lives. But I didn't want to rely on the system alone. I wanted to make sure her lies, her schemes, and her temper destroyed her in a way she couldn't recover from. So I called Jason, my coworker with the law enforcement contacts. I need everything you can find on her, I told him. Reports, arrests, complaints, anything. 2 days later, he handed me a folder. Inside were records of her history, petty theft, disorderly conduct, suspected fraud, unpaid debts, and a long list of complaints from people she'd burned along the way. Danielle thought she could play dirty. But now, I had the ammunition to expose her entire pattern of destruction. It was time to show everyone who she really was. And this time, there would be no coming back for her. I spread Jason's folder out on my kitchen table like a war map. Every page, every report, every note was another weapon. For years Danielle had been able to slip through cracks, skating by on charm, lies, and manipulation. But now I had the receipts, all of them. The first person I showed was Mom. She sat across from me, silent, her eyes scanning the papers. Police reports, complaints, even a letter from a former roommate who accused Danielle of stealing money and jewelry. By the time she reached the end, her hands were trembling. I can't believe this, Mom whispered. All this time, I defended her. I thought she was just lost, that she needed guidance. But her voice broke. She's dangerous. I squeezed her hand gently. I know it's hard to see, Mom. But you needed to know the truth. She's not just hurting me, she's been hurting everyone who trusted her. Mom nodded slowly, tears filling her eyes. And for the first time in years, I felt her fully on my side. Next, I went to my landlord. I laid out the police reports, the trespassing footage, the brick incident. His face hardened as he read. She's finished here, he said firmly. I'll be filing official complaints. If she so much as sets foot on this property again, she'll be arrested. Finally, I delivered a copy of the folder to the local police. I wasn't sure what would stick, but I knew this much: her record was no longer buried in whispers. It was documented, undeniable, and ready to be used against her. By the end of the week, the dominoes had begun to fall. Danielle tried to call me, tried to scream at me through voicemail, but her voice no longer had power. For the first time, she was the one cornered. And I wasn't done yet. Because now it was time to make her confess, to herself, to me, and to everyone else. By this point, Danielle was like a cornered animal, thrashing, desperate, unpredictable. She left me voicemails full of screaming, texts filled with threats, even tried calling Mom nonstop. But Mom wasn't answering anymore. I knew it was time to end this. Not just defend myself, not just gather proof, end it. So I set a trap. Danielle's biggest weakness had always been her pride. She couldn't stand looking like a fool, couldn't handle people seeing through her lies. I used that against her. I sent her a message, short and sharp. If you really think I'm lying about you, meet me tomorrow at Mom's. Let's clear the air in front of her. I knew she couldn't resist. She'd see it as an opportunity to perform, to spin her story one last time. What she didn't know was that I had already set up my phone to record the entire meeting. The next day, I arrived at Mom's house early. I explained the plan to her, and though she looked nervous, she agreed. If this is the only way to finally expose her, I'll back you up, she said. When Danielle walked in, she was already on edge. Her hair was messy, her eyes darted around like she hadn't slept. She slammed her purse on the table and sneered at me. "So, what's this? Some kind of intervention?" "No," I said calmly. "This is your chance to explain yourself. To tell Mom the truth." She laughed bitterly. "The truth? Please. You're the liar here, Amanda. You're the one who's been spreading stories about me, turning Mom against me, acting like some perfect angel. I should be the one living in that apartment, not you. You stole everything from me." Her voice was sharp, shrill, her mask slipping. She didn't realize every word was being recorded. And I had a feeling she was about to dig her own grave with her mouth. Danielle's rant spiraled quickly, her words tumbling out like venom she couldn't stop spewing. "You think you're so perfect, Amanda, but you're not," she snapped, jabbing her finger at me. "You've always had everything, school, jobs, apartments, and you never once deserved it. I worked harder than you. But no one ever cared. So yeah, maybe I lied. Maybe I had to make up stories about you just so people would finally listen to me." Mom gasped. "Danielle, are you saying you lied?" Danielle froze for half a second, realizing what she had admitted, but her pride wouldn't let her back down. "So what if I did?" she shouted. "You've always taken her side anyway." I had to do something to even the score. I stayed calm, steady, letting her unravel in front of us. "So you lied to Mom. You lied to the landlord. You vandalized my door. You threw a brick at my building. You threatened me. And for what? Because you couldn't stand that I worked for what I have." Her face twisted, rage battling with shame. "You don't understand. Everything should have been mine. You were supposed to take care of me forever. Instead, you left, and I was stuck picking up the pieces." Tears pricked Mom's eyes. "Danielle, your sister sacrificed so much for you. And this is how you repay her?" Danielle opened her mouth to snap back, but I raised my phone, screen glowing. "It's all recorded," I said evenly. "Every word you just said. The lies, the vandalism, the threats, you confessed to all of it." Her eyes widened, her bravado finally cracking. You tricked me." I leaned forward, my voice cold and firm. "No. You tricked yourself." For the first time, Danielle had nothing to say. And I knew then, her empire of lies had finally collapsed. Danielle sat there, stunned, her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. The fire in her eyes had dimmed, replaced by a flicker of panic. Mom broke the silence first. Her voice was firm, steadier than I had ever heard it when speaking to Danielle. "Enough. I won't let you hurt your sister anymore. I defended you for years, Danielle. I believed your excuses, your stories. But now I see the truth, and I'm ashamed of what you've become." Danielle's face crumpled, but instead of remorse, I saw anger boiling again. "You're both against me," she muttered. "You've always been against me." "No," I said sharply. "I was always for you, even when you didn't deserve it. I protected you, Danielle. I covered for you. I gave you chance after chance. But you burned every bridge, and now it's over." I stood, sliding my phone into my pocket. "This recording goes to the police tomorrow. Along with every report, every witness, and every piece of evidence I've collected. You wanted war? Congratulations, you lost." Her eyes widened, and for the first time, I saw fear break through her anger. You can't do that. If you go to the police, She stopped, realizing another threat would only dig her hole deeper. Mom shook her head. "Amanda doesn't have to do anything more. You did this to yourself." Danielle's hands trembled as she grabbed her purse and bolted for the door, slamming it behind her. The house shook with the force, but the silence afterward felt final. I exhaled slowly, the tension draining from my body. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt like I could breathe again. Danielle wasn't gone completely, not yet. But her grip on me, on Mom, on the life I had built, that was broken. And soon, the rest of the world would know the truth too. The next morning, I walked into the police station with the folder under my arm and my phone in my pocket. My hands shook a little, but not from fear. This was adrenaline. This was closure. The officer on duty listened as I explained everything, piece by piece. The vandalism footage. The text threats. The brick. And finally, I played the recording of Danielle's meltdown at Mom's house. When her voice filled the room, admitting to lies, vandalism, and threats, the officer's expression hardened. "This is more than enough," he said. "We'll be filing charges." It felt like a weight slid off my chest. For so long, I had been reacting, defending, putting out fires that Danielle started. But now, I had ended it. Within a week, Danielle was officially charged with vandalism, harassment, and making criminal threats. A restraining order was granted in my favor, and she was barred from contacting me or coming near my apartment again. Word spread quickly through the family. Relatives who had once blindly believed her stories now saw the truth. Friends she had manipulated stopped answering her calls. Even her little entourage of troublemakers drifted away when they realized she had no power left. As for me, life slowly returned to peace. My apartment became my sanctuary again. I focused on my work, spent more time with Mom, who apologized over and over for not seeing through Danielle sooner, and even started dating someone new, a quiet, steady man named Eric who reminded me what it felt like to be safe. One evening, as I sat on my balcony watching the sunset, I finally felt that elusive thing I'd been chasing for years, freedom. Danielle had tried to take everything from me, my home, my reputation, even my family. But in the end, she only destroyed herself. I had stood my ground. I had fought back. And I had won.